I'm author Sarah A. Chrisman.
I'm Gabriel Chrisman.
And today we're talking about one of our very favorite books, American Gods by Neil Gaiman. This is an awesome story.
It is.
Yeah, this, again, like I said, it's one of my favorites. This is the story of a battle between the old gods of the Norse pantheon and...
Well, pretty much every type of pantheon of the immigrants to America.
Yeah, exactly.
So all the gods that people brought to America with them.
Right.
Versus the new gods of America itself.
Right.
The sort of modern gods of...
Right.
Give some examples.
The new gods of media and computer technology. And things like cars and drugs and credit cards. All of these things that people make sacrifices to. And there's a great scene where the main character is speaking to the god of media, and he asks her, what do people sacrifice to you? And she says, well, their time mostly, sometimes each other, many things. And so this whole book is a wonderfully Campbellian battle of the gods.
And I love how it makes you think about these things and the fact that these do take the place in modern society in many cases of these old gods in terms of paying attention and making sacrifices and even offering sort of worship of a sort.
Right.
And that is the sort of genius of this, is to sort of look at this what we think of as a very old practice and connect to modern life and say, hey, in what ways are we actually very similar?
Right, right. There's a scene in here where the god of cars shows up with teeth of chrome with blood on them, and Neil Gaiman points out that he's been the recipient of sacrifices, human sacrifice at a level that hadn't been seen since the Aztecs.
Right.
And there's this wonderful theme in this book of America being a bad place for gods. And they're struggling to work out their place here and to keep up a place here.
Right.
While they're fighting, again, the old gods are fighting with the new gods for space in people's heads and hearts. And there's actually even a scene where, because there are folk heroes in this too, because they are part of the world of the gods. And so there's a scene where Johnny Appleseed is cursing Paul Bunyan for taking up headspace. It's
also very nice because it shows you the contradiction that a lot of these figures, are. And both of those are equally American.
Oh yeah,
but
they're so American.
Johnny Appleseed, plants trees and Paul Bunyan cuts them down.
Exactly.
And that's very much sort of, there's America, right?
Yeah.
These are people we both sort of worship as heroes. And yet, they're contradictory in just about every way.
They're diametrically opposed.
Right.
But a lot of stories about gods are that way.
Absolutely, yes. But again, this is why the sort of modern American mythos ends up fitting in to the same mold that you apply to the Norse gods or the Egyptian gods or anyone else.
Yes.
So
I love the Egyptian gods in this. The Egyptian gods in this are some of the best depicted Egyptian gods I've seen in literature because he does such a masterful job of them.
And of translating them into the American Midwest.
Right. Because the Egyptian gods show up in the city of Cairo, which is on the Mississippi River. If you've read Mark Twain, you're familiar with this city. It's actually written out like the city of Cairo in Egypt, but it's pronounced Cairo, the one in America. And that's where the Egyptian gods have settled, appropriately enough.
Exactly, and on a river.
On a river.
Yes.
And so in this one, they are running a funeral parlor.
Of course they are.
Of course they are. And they have Bast there, who is usually a little brown cat. She does show up as a woman in some very memorable scenes that I won't spoil for you, but I love the scenes of Bast showing up as a woman. Those are fantastic.
Right.
And then the other Egyptian gods, you've got Ibis and Anubis, who they're masterful. I don't want to spoil anything for you, but they are so well drawn.
I love again how he really takes all these different pantheons from different immigrant cultures and shows that these were all brought to America.
Right, because the gods you see the most, of the old gods that you see the most in here, you've got Odin, who is Mr. Wednesday, and you have Loki. You also have one of the Slavic gods, and they play some very interesting roles in this, which are very in keeping with their mythology, honestly. And Gaiman does a really good job of showing the battle of these old gods with the god of media and the god of computer technology.
Right. And despite the fact that this is now 25 years old, it still holds up very well in terms of these new gods. The categories still fit pretty darn accurately.
Absolutely. I think if he'd written it more recently, he would have had more than one god of computer technology.
Yes.
I think that he would have had to represent it in multiple personas.
But otherwise, I don't think it certainly holds up.
Oh yeah, it absolutely holds up. And it is fantastic at drawing people's attention to all the sacrifices they make to all of these things in modern life, like the media, like computers, like all the time that's sacrificed to computers, all the money that's sacrificed to technology, relationships that are sacrificed to all of the above, to technology, to media, everything.
And he does a good job of one of the sort of key notes of this book is about belief and the nature of belief and how our beliefs build our reality.
Yeah, and he presents this image of gods feeding on belief and gods needing belief to exist. And I think he probably developed that idea with Terry Pratchett, because Terry Pratchett has that same idea, and those two knew each other. They worked together.
Yeah, they collaborated together too.
Yeah, it's an older idea though. It's an older idea. But I do think they helped each other develop it in the way that they use it.
And each one of them did, of course, have a different spin on it. Terry Pratchett's is far more lighthearted and humorous.
Yeah.
And Neil Gaiman's is darker.
Well, we did see Neil Gaiman speak at one point, and he was an absolutely fabulous speaker. And he, at one point, mentioned the book Good Omens that he had worked on with Terry Pratchett. And he said that his fans often say, I know how you wrote that book. You must have written actually a rather dark book about the apocalypse. And then Terry pranced in pixie-like and added all the humor. And he said, that wasn't actually how it went. Which I just thought was a really cute depiction of the perception of how they worked together versus how they actually worked together.
Yeah.
There's a great bit in here where he's referencing the book The Origin of Consciousness and the Breakdown of the Bicameral Mind, which
by Julian Jaynes.
Yeah, which is a hefty tome of a book. It's very heavy reading.
Yes.
It's
but famously referenced in some other books by other authors we enjoy.
Right. So why don't you give a brief overview? Well, actually, it's in here.
Yeah.
So one of the characters is saying that her roommate had read The Origin of Consciousness and the Breakdown of the Bicameral Mind.
As you do.
As one does in college. My roommate had it, and she kept waving it around. It was like how 5,000 years ago the lobes of the brain fused, and before that, people thought when the right lobe of the brain said anything, it was just the voice of some god telling them what to do. It's just brains. I like my theory better, said Shadow. What's your theory? That back then people used to run into the gods from time to time, which I just love. It's such a great retort to all of this psychology of, oh, it's just neuroscience.
Right.
To just say, no, actually it's just people running into the gods.
Well, one of my favorite things is the disclaimer at the beginning of this book. And one of the classic disclaimers is, of course, that there's any resemblance of the characters to anyone living or dead is merely coincidence, that these are fictional characters. And then he says at the very end of it, only the gods are real.
Only the gods are real.
And so, yes, I really liked that as a disclaimer at the beginning.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And one of the other things that he does a good job of in this book is talk about places and the power of places. And for America, I think this is a really good insight. And especially, I'm sure he had a lot of fun driving around and finding these places.
Oh, it's really clear he'd actually been to these places. And we've actually been to Cairo. It's a very sad city.
It's a very interesting city, and it's fitting in some ways to make it the city of the dead.
Yeah, because it's a city that in the 19th century was very affluent. It was very successful.
Bustling.
It was very bustling.
It was at the junction of two important rivers that were valuable for transportation.
Right.
It was a crossroads.
And it has fallen on some very, very, very hard times.
Honestly, when we drove through there, it looked like it had been bombed.
Yeah.
It looked like a war zone.
But it's just from neglect.
Right.
It's just from neglect and poverty, which is really sad.
It is.
It was really sad. But it was also kind of chilling because he describes that city so well. We'd read this book before we went there, and then I've read it many times after we'd been there. Because I've read this book, I don't know how many times.
Right.
And you read it aloud to me too.
Yeah.
But
he captures it.
He captures it really well.
And he captures the weird power of other places too. Like the house on the rock in Wisconsin, which I remember going to when I was growing up in the 80s.
Yeah, I haven't been there, but you have. Why don't you tell some things about the house on the rock?
It's fabulously weird. That's really what it is. It is a place that has all sorts of random stuff in juxtaposition. And none of it really makes a whole lot of sense. And you just have to kind of go with it and take it in and just be like, okay, I guess they did it that way. I guess they put together all these things, and I guess that's interesting. And it is deeply American in its strangeness and its blending and juxtaposition and its strange combination of sort of pop culture and...
Is it a little like Seattle's Ye Olde Curiosity Shop?
It's like that, but multiplied by a factor of 10, and everything even weirder. And
weirder than Ye Olde Curiosity Shop?
Considerably.
That's
so.
a high bar.
Correct. That's why it's a place of power he refers to here.
Yeah.
I don't know how else to describe it except that it's a weird agglomeration of all sorts of stuff. And it is deeply American. Gaiman does get that absolutely right.
Right.
And he captures some of that feeling of just bizarreness.
Well, and he talks about places of power around the globe being places where humans feel drawn to them, and they don't know why. He describes Mount Rushmore as another of these. And that they know we as humans know that there is power in these places, and of course the gods know. But humans feel we need an excuse to do pilgrimages to these places, and so as humans we build things like the house on the rock,
Right.
and Mount Rushmore and various roadside attractions, so that we have an excuse to go to these places of power.
Right.
But the gods always know what they're really there for. And he has a wonderful scene on the carousel in the house on the rock, the world's biggest carousel. And that scene, to me, is very reminiscent of a scene from Ray Bradbury.
And again, I guarantee you that Neil Gaiman has read every single thing Ray Bradbury ever read.
I guarantee.
Yes.
I guarantee. Well, if you've ever read Something Wicked This Way Comes, which
we recommend.
It's one of my all-time favorite books. I read it every October. You have to read it in October. And the carousel in that, you will never look at carousels another way, the same way again.
Right.
Because it is so magical. And there is something very magic about a carousel.
And there's something that's just, it's this combination of nostalgia and sort of iconography and the idea of, traveling in a circle. It's just
and cycles.
Cycles, yeah. There's a lot of symbolism going on.
Right. And travel that takes you back around to where you started.
And one of the things that he loves about it, and a lot of what he seems to love about the American stuff, is this combination of deep power with sort of kitsch.
Yeah.
And the sort of layering of that, where it looks like the sort of kitschy stuff, like a lot of the things in the House on the Rock, but actually underneath it there is this sort of deep Campbellian meaning.
Yeah, it's actually very... I love that we're talking about this today, because we went up to Des Moines earlier today, and on the way back we actually saw someone transporting carousel animals on a flatbed trailer that was hooked up to a big truck. And these were full-sized carousel bulls. They must have been transporting them between rodeos. That's
right.
all I can guess. But they looked like fiberglass.
Right.
They were full-size bulls painted in bright colors in fancy designs. And the only explanation I can think of is that they were for a carousel.
Right. Which is a super American concept and would fit right into Neil Gaiman's conception and view of America.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And if you have ever traveled, especially in the American Midwest, anywhere in America, but especially in the Midwest,
yes,
you will recognize so many scenes in this book so well. Yeah. They are so accurate, so true.
And Neil Gaiman, especially being not American himself, has the best perspective on being able to try to capture what it is, what this Americana is, how this sort of operates.
And why it's important to us.
Right.
Why we feel this power from all of these things that are, they are in some ways kind of silly, in some ways very weird.
Right.
And yet they're powerful.
Right. And to me, again, that's what he captures, is that layering of things that really does make up the American mythos.
Yeah.
And I think, again, to really understand it, read the book.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Highly, highly recommend it. Definite must read.
Yes.
So, hope you'll put it on your bucket list. And I hope you'll put all my books on your bucket list too, of course. Thanks for watching today. Go ahead and give this video a nice thumbs up, and happy reading.